Fellow scholars of the unseen, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into what is arguably one of the absolute most fascinating cases buried deep within our archives. Now, as chroniclers of forbidden folklore, you know we usually spend our time focusing on the tangible things, right? The intricate rituals, the choking smoke, the blood pacts, the whole shebang. But today we're doing something different. We are going to meticulously chronicle the profound psychological evolution of one man, Ilyan Marr. We are going to get right inside his head. We'll examine his mindset as he makes this massive, unprecedented pivot away from traditional magic and steps into the incredibly dangerous, forbidden heights of the unseen world. It's a journey of a mind under unimaginable pressure, and honestly, it completely changes how we should look at our own work.
To keep us on track, our syllabus today is going to follow Marr's progression chronologically. We'll start with the shadow of Bael, then look at the error of old methods, dive deep into his book of negative signs, analyze Valac's temptation, explore his shift into the detached witness, and finally, we'll end with the dangerous final question. All right, let's jump right in.
Section 1. The Shadow of Bael, the Inciting Threat.
Okay, so we have to begin our case study with the catalyst, the inciting threat. Imagine you're Ilyan Marr, working in the city of Lethar. Suddenly, the atmosphere just shifts. Bael, the first king, turns his attention toward the city. And the terrifying thing is, Bael doesn't need to shout. He doesn't draw a weapon. His mere attention, just the fact that he is watching, causes the entire unseen world, all those lower spirits in Lethar, to completely stall out. All those little powers that used to confidently whisper from dark wells and shadowy doorways, suddenly they're hesitating. They start looking upward before speaking, acting as if even their petting little lies require permission from above. It's a suffocating, silent order. And in that chilling silence, Ilyan realizes his previous occult work has reached way higher than he ever intended. He is now acutely, painfully aware of his own dangerous visibility. Now, it is absolutely crucial for us to contrast the two very distinct types of threats Ilyan has suddenly caught between. It's like a two-front spiritual war. On one hand, you have the overt, thunderous, blunt force reality of Bael's top-down command. It is an absolute crushing order that threatens to squash him like a bug. But on the other hand, you have the soft, alluring influence, the dependency-building whispers of the low-ranking spirits that Ilyan has spent years studying. These lesser demons don't threaten to crush you. They threaten your human independence through convenience. They make you rely on them. Facing this immense dual threat, Ilyan knows for a fact that he has to act. But let's be real, he can't fight these high-ranked powers with force. He can only fight them by asking a question.
Section 2. Error of Old Methods, a Systematic Refusal.
Staring down this absolute danger, Marr takes a hard look at the cluttered, desperate archives of traditional occult folklore, and he recognizes a fatal flaw in the old ways. Let's really break down his systematic refusal of those old methods, compared to the completely unique approach he finally lands on. The old methods? They're all about control and protection, right? Drawing circles, burning smoke, offering blood, demanding obedience. But Ilyan has this brilliant, terrifying realization. If he asks the dark for power, he just becomes bait. If he asks for safety, he becomes owned. Entering the unseen world as a master, a servant, or even just a petitioner instantly turns a human being into a tool. So what does he do? He literally strips it all away. He ditches the artifacts. He envisions a stark, empty room with the shutters thrown wide open to the ordinary wind. No boundaries. He decides to enter the dark strictly as a detached witness, leaving absolutely nowhere for the truth to hide. And scholars, we really must appreciate the severe risks here. Seeking forbidden truth without the typical protective boundaries of chalk circles or bargaining means he has zero shield. None. His only protection is his own pure intent. If he slips up, if he shows 1 ounce of selfish desire, he is instantly consumed.
Section 3, Book of Negative Signs, Documenting Spiritual Surrender. So, having thrown out all the flawed traditional methods, Marr has to develop an entirely new psychological tool. And visual contrast is so important here. Imagine stepping away from a chaotic desk overflowing with magical junk and bloody daggers and walking into a stark, perfectly empty space holding just a single, simple ledger. He calls this the Book of Negative Signs. Now, this isn't a book of spells, it's an investigative tool. And here is the genius part. It doesn't record what humans gain from demonic gifts. It specifically records what they surrender without ever noticing. Think about a master blacksmith who slowly stops trusting his own hardened hands because a spirit promised him a flawless blade. Or a skilled healer who suddenly becomes terrified to use ordinary herbs unless a ghost whispers its approval. Marr uses this empty book to prove a devastating point. Convenient miracles steal our human uncertainty. They steal our ordinary, everyday courage, and they replace it with a quiet, insidious kind of slavery. On the 8th night, in that stark, empty room, Marr formally solidifies his total independence, and he does this by making 3 profound refusals out loud. First up, the refusal of power. He flat out refuses to ask for a weapon, and he refuses to ask for the strength to defeat Bael. Second, the refusal of ownership. No blood offerings, no pledges of loyalty, absolutely no selling of his soul. But it's this third step that is just so fascinating. The refusal of certainty. You know, humans love certainty. We crave it, even when we know it's coming from a monster. But Ilyan actively chooses the incredibly heavy burden of the truth over the warm, easy comfort of a demonic shield. He promises that no matter what, he will not demand comfort from the unseen. Section 4. Valac's alluring temptation. The soft threat of convenience. Okay, so right at the exact moment Marr establishes these incredibly strict intellectual and philosophical boundaries, he gets tested. The demon Valac arrives. And Valac isn't some roaring beast. He takes the form of an innocent-looking childlike figure riding a 2-headed dragon. Valac doesn't try to tempt Ilyan with dark, evil, world-ending deeds. No, he tempts him with something much more dangerous: extreme material utility. Valac literally makes the floor of the archive transparent, showing Ilyan a massive network of tunnels right under his feet, filled with buried coins, forgotten secrets, and hidden truths. Valac is offering actual, tangible treasures that could genuinely be used to feed the starving poor of Lethar. He's offering secrets that could definitively expose the corrupt nobles ruining the city. It is a brilliant, terrifyingly practical temptation. Valac looks right at him and says that all mortals are knocking for treasure. He says, even if you call it saving others, the door still opens into wanting. We really have to pause and discuss the massive psychological cost this exacts on Ilyan. Rejecting Valac isn't just about saying no to personal wealth. It means looking out his window at the agonizing poverty and rampant corruption in his own city and making the agonizing, conscious choice not to fix it instantly. He literally has to shoulder the intense guilt of inaction just to preserve his spiritual autonomy. He actively chooses human independence over demonic convenience because he knows deep in his bones that if he accepts Valac's utility, sure, he might arrive at higher truths, but he'll be arriving there wearing a demon's leash. So he absolutely refuses the path of the lower serpents. Section 5. The Detached Witness, a Philosophical Shift with Vassago. By successfully resisting Valac's deeply alluring, chaotic utility, Marr achieves something incredible. He marks his complete philosophical shift. He goes from being a traditional seeker of occult mastery to becoming a purely detached witness. And because of this, Prince Vassago finally arrives.
Notice the stark difference here, scholars. Vassago doesn't burst in with thunder and lightning. There is zero spectacle, none of that performative grandiosity you see with the lower ranks. Vassago simply offers clarity instead of comfort. He presents Ilyan with a frankly horrifying vision of his home. He shows him that Lethar isn't just a city made of streets and stone buildings. No, it's actually a massive, glowing map of desperate human dependencies. It's an intricate web of lines connecting humans, healers, soldiers, powerful merchants, directly to the manipulative whispers of the unseen world. Now, consider this insight from Vassago. I would argue this is perhaps the single most critical takeaway in our entire study today. Listen to this. Often it begins when a demon answers truthfully at the wrong moment. Just sit with that for a second. Think about the implications. A 100% true, effective cure can permanently enslave a healer by teaching them to never, ever trust their own hard-earned skill again. An incredibly accurate omen about an upcoming battle can completely ruin a great king by stripping him of his ability to ever make a tough decision without begging for permission first. The truth itself, when it's handed over purely out of convenience, is a chain. It is a leash.
Because Mara actually understands this, Vassago agrees to issue his terms. And this isn't your standard run-of-the-mill demonic bargain costing pints of blood or years off your life. No, these terms demand pure, crushing human integrity. Look at what he demands. First, Ilyan must never, ever claim this contact made him special or chosen. Second, he has to document his own uncertainty completely honestly, no inventing false confidence to look good. And third, and this is the hardest one, he must absolutely refuse any human demand to turn Vassago's knowledge into a weapon. Ilyan cannot just swap out the petty dependencies of the lower demons for a taller, heavier chain. He has to remain exactly what he is, a small, ordinary, mortal hand that happens to be carrying the truth.
Section 6. The dangerous final question. Disseminating the truth.
So, armed with Vassago's incredibly heavy counsel, Marr faces his final, monumental task. He has to warn the first king, Bael, that the thievery and dependency caused by the lower spirits actually exposes a massive, glaring weakness in all demonic rule. But how on earth do you send a message through a world where literal birds, dreams, and human couriers can be corrupted and intercepted? Well, Ilyan's solution is just a brilliant masterstroke of psychological warfare. He totally bypasses the unseen messengers by weaving his warning directly into the ordinary, noisy, public life of Lethar. He fragments the truth. He copies bits of it into children's bedtime fables, tavern songs, boring legal arguments, and even just simple farmers' proverbs. Think about it. A demon can easily intercept a sealed letter, but a pattern of thought moving naturally through everyday bustling human life, that is completely unstoppable. And this causes the lower ranks of demons to absolutely panic. Why? Because the humans start embracing the wisdom purely because it works, without ever worshiping or depending on the source. It totally circumvents the creation of a cult, perfectly maintaining human independence.
And it works. This fragmented, decentralized message successfully filters upward from literally 100 different mortal mouths at once. It forces Bael to look down and confront the inherent weakness of a kingdom built entirely on cheap dependency. Bael realizes that if he ignores this creeping realization, the chaos of human independence will eventually bleed all the way up to his own throne. So, what is his response? Bael silences the entire unseen world with a single massive breath. And then he issues a direct, chilling summons to Ilyan Marr, not summoning him to some protective chalk circle in a basement, but directly to the high courts, to the very place where the first banner was raised.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer on Ilyan Marr's truly incredible psychological evolution.
We've tracked him from a terrified man hiding in a cluttered archive all the way to a fiercely independent, detached witness standing boldly before the first king himself. As we wrap up this session, I want to leave you with the central, incredibly provocative inquiry that drove his entire dangerous journey, a question we all need to ask ourselves. How does a human remain human when every single power in the universe wants to make him useful? Fellow scholars, I want you to ponder that question deeply before your next foray into the archives. Until next time, keep seeking the truth, and whatever you do, never surrender your uncertainty.